All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to YTH Night Live. Sorry about the late start. It's had some tech difficulties, but we're back and we're in it. And we got Caesar here again.
What's good, y'all?
Caesar, you're becoming an OG on this.
I know, right? That's crazy.
On this show. Listen, if you're in the chat or maybe you're at home with your family and you're watching online on the TV or whatever, pull out your phones and also be engaged in the chat. So the whole night, or the whole purpose of this night, is to have a conversation, interact with you, and to discuss this topic. And this topic is something that we're really excited about. It's the idea of, okay, I'm in high school, I'm in middle school, and I want to pursue full-time ministry one day.
Right.
I think I do, at least. Like, how do I know that I actually want to do that? And what should I look out for if that is true? And how do I start now and not wait until I'm 40 with kids and married
Right.
to like step into ministry? So what does that look like? So we're going to talk about all that stuff. But before we do, let us know if you're in the chat. We want to say, hey, what's up? Looks like Tyreek is in the chat. What's up, Tyreek?
Boogie2988. Let's go.
He said Caesar and Pastor P, Tyrone, Holloman, the man. Tyrone will be on here in a few weeks. That'll be a fun one. Let's see. Anybody else? People are hopping on.
It was actually Tyreek's birthday. Yesterday, right?
Come on.
Yesterday, yeah. Happy late birthday, Tyreek.
Let's go. Put happy birthday, Tyreek, in the chat. I'm about to put it in there. Happy birthday, Tyreek. I said happy Tyreek. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, that's true. Happy Tyreek.
Happy
Tyreek.
He's always happy. Happy Tyreek. Madison Yancey, what's up?
What's up,
Annalise,
Madison?
what's up, Annalise? Good to see you.
What's good, Annalise? Banabis.
My wife. What's up, wife?
What's up, my wife?
Oh my gosh. Good to see you. Let's see. Tyree said, thanks, bro. All caps, thanks.
Anytime, Tyreek.
Okay, let's see. So we're having a conversation about ministry, and that might seem like weird to some people.
Facts.
But there's a lot of students that are graduating out of our youth ministry that are going to pursue full-time ministry.
Yeah.
So right now there's like 7 people that are going to Highlands College, which I didn't even plan this. Highlands College.
Yeah, me neither.
So Highlands College is the college that I graduated from. It's actually the college that Michaela and I both met at. We went there. It's in Birmingham, Alabama. We went there pursuing full-time ministry. We met. We got married while we were living in Birmingham.
Yes, sir.
Or we got engaged when we were living in Birmingham. I got connected to Pastor Allen through that college because Pastor Allen's pastor is actually the chancellor of Highlands College. He's like the founder, the guy behind it all, right? That's Pastor Chris Hodges. And so through that connection, that's how we all came to Daystar. And so now Definition. And so now we have a lot of students who are going to Highlands College. We have a lot of students who are in middle school who are talking about like, hey, that would be something that I'm really interested in.
Facts.
And so I honestly, like, I'll tell you something. I had an idea of what we were going to talk about tonight, like a couple of days ago, right before, because I normally send out the message on Tuesday.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, like tomorrow night we're going to be talking about this. And the idea changed last minute, and I feel like God really wanted me to talk about this tonight for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think it's just because we've never really touched on it. This is something that we've never talked about as a youth ministry.
Yeah.
It's always been very organic. Like as a student says to me, hey, I'm interested in this, I'll have a one-on-one conversation with them and their parents maybe.
Facts.
But we've never sent out like a blanket thing to the youth ministry and said like, hey,
Right.
here's what's possible, you know?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about like your story, because you're pursuing Highlands College full-time ministry. So what did that look like for you? Maybe give some people some maybe some time to ask some questions in here just by telling them like, you know, your process of, okay, I'm a student in youth ministry and now you're the Caesar that everybody knows and loves. So like how did that transition take place? And, you know, just walk us through that.
Yeah, I want to give you a little background on myself. So let's go back to the beginning in Genesis. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh.
In the beginning, there was but it was about 6 years ago. I think it was Daystar en Español came to Daystar, now Definition, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. So when our church combined, you know, Espanol was one thing, and then the English service was another thing.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't really want to attend the youth services. I never really went. I only went to like a couple youth nights, maybe here and there. It wasn't until EXP. Mm-hmm. EXP, which was 2018, 3 years ago now, but really 2.5 or something like that. So it was EXP 2.5 years ago, something like that, where I found God. So when I went to EXP, you know, it's the first time I've ever worshiped. It was actually the first love. First time I've ever worshiped. First time I ever really connected. First time I've ever really found life-giving relationships was at EXP. That's where I met some of my real ones like A-Dog, Bruha, yeah, and Bruha. I think Tyrone went to that one. The Stir, and a bunch of other people. So anyway, EXP happened. And then from EXP, I was like, bro, this is sick. Bro, I want more of this. Like, give me more God. And so after EXP, 2018, that was 252.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, a little after that, you know, I started attending more after EXP. I started going to church more. I started doing more things. And then 252 happened, you know, they started shoulder tapping people.
Right. Being
like, hey, this is 252 leadership program, you should do it. I was like, okay, sick, dope. And that's when I had my
sick, dope, kill me.
Yeah. And that's when I had my conversation with you, what I want to do. And I was like, bro, I just want to grow, you know.
Right.
I just want to grow more with God and stuff like that. So, yeah, I attend 252.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I attend 252 2019.
Right.
2019, that's where I met a lot of my real ones, a lot of my close friends now. You know, just people there. And that's where I grew and found my, like, eternal friends, really. Mm-hmm. And then from there, let me backtrack a little. Sorry, my bad. 2019, 2.5 years ago, before 252, like right before 252, I got baptized. I got baptized at De Star en Español 2.5 years ago now. Yeah, something like that. And then from there, I did 252. And then from 252, you know, life-giving relationships, I started to become more of a leader within our church. I started to serve more, you know, being what I am today or growing to the man I am today.
Right. Then you did youth nights all year.
Yeah, youth nights.
Because really that first 252 was when you stepped into leadership.
Yeah.
Like you trained all summer, and for anybody who doesn't know what 252 is, we'll explain that in a second. But for those 8 weeks of that internship, surprise, it's an 8-week internship. But for those 8 weeks, you stepped into learning and discovering what it's like to lead, being given opportunities to lead.
Right.
And then you led for that whole next year.
Yeah.
And then you did 252 again in 2020.
Yeah.
And then you went through, and because you guys were the ones like, you know, creating and putting on youth nights and doing the whole thing. And then Oasis, the conference this past year, we launched that, and like you guys led that whole thing.
Yeah.
And so just that whole experience, you know, you have been, you've had leadership experience, and you've gotten hands-on with the ministry.
Right.
So it sounds like and it's crazy, like hearing you say, like you referenced that conversation we had at the beginning.
Yeah.
That conversation with that Caesar compared to the Caesar now is like completely, like God's just done so much in you, dude. It's crazy. So to see you now, and we're processing now where we are.
Right.
And we see some people who have had hands-on ministry. They've had the opportunity to put their hands in it, to work in it, to say like, yes, I know I want to do this now, or maybe I really don't.
Yeah.
And they know because they did it.
Right.
It's not just because like, oh, I think I have this weird non-realistic view of what ministry is, and so I'm going to pursue that. No, like you got to see what ministry was.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes it's really fun, and it's a little bit of both all the time. You know? So just trying to figure all that stuff out is a really big challenge for a lot of people. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that I would say is that if you even begin, like I think that 252 is great for anybody.
Right. Oh yeah. Most
especially because you may be in a position where you're like, man, I think I want to pursue full-time ministry one day.
Yeah.
But then even if you don't think that, 252 is still good for you, because the whole reason that we do 252 is to create effective Christian leaders, whether that's in the church or out of the church, like as far as your full-time job.
Right.
So for you just used that experience to, yes, grow in your Christian leadership, but also gave you an opportunity to say like, man, I might want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so for you got connected to some people at Highlands College.
Yeah.
Because there's already a group going down this fall, and your brother's already there.
Yeah, my brother's already there.
Yeah. So your brother's already there. You get connected with them, and you're going to be applying as soon as it opens up in the fall.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, because now what's crazy is that you just spoke your first message a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy.
And you're still in this like discovering about my giftings and stuff. So there's a few things that I want to point out from your story specifically that we can kind of talk about. Okay. So one of the first things is you originally felt like this pull. And you said it started at Camp EXP.
Yeah.
So there's this idea of like God not convicting, but like putting this passion in you, and that thing just keeps growing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
For sure.
So that idea of it started with God speaking to you is so important.
Yeah.
Because actually, a lot of people don't know this, but when I was at the college, my job there was to be the recruiter for the college.
Oh yeah.
So it was funny because my conversation with a lot of students wasn't like, hey, you should come to Highlands College. Like everybody should come. It's the best thing in the world. Like that wasn't what my conversation was with people. My conversation was, hey, you don't need to come unless you know for sure that you are called to full-time ministry. Because I knew the weight of it, and I had been in a position where I was in my first semester, and I was at a portable campus at 4:30 in the morning, and I was setting up chairs, and it was just me. Like nobody else. Like nobody else from the college. It was just me and a bunch of people I didn't know. And so really I felt like alone in that situation, and all I had was me and this idea that I'm called.
Yeah.
And that idea and that passion of like I'm called to do this is the thing that got me through all the hard moments.
Right.
So I told students that because I knew that if you got into a position like that and you didn't have that anchor of like I'm called to do this, God's teaching me something in this moment because He's called me to do this the rest of my life.
Right.
Chances are you're going to quit.
Yeah.
And you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be really burned out.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's just crazy. You have anything to say about that?
Yeah, we talked about this before stream, but Pastor Allen says this a lot. If you can picture yourself doing anything else besides ministry, do it.
Yeah, right.
Just do it, straight up. Because ministry, one thing you touched on, it's a passion. You know, if you're passionate about it, if God has given you a passion for like youth ministry or just pastoring a church or something within the church, if God's given you a passion for it, you know, that's how you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people confuse it with like, you know, I can't, like we're talking about vocational full-time ministry, like working in a church is your 9 to 5. Like that's your full-time job, okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of people get that confused with like, well, I can do ministry like wherever I'm at. And that's 100% true. Like you, and I think that not only can you, but you should. Like any Christian who's in a workplace, that workplace should be your ministry. Like that should be the place where you're impacting people and sharing the gospel and creating disciples.
Yeah.
A good example is John Piper. He's a, you know, pretty famous pastor or whatever and writes a lot of, you know, great books and all this stuff. And he recalls his story because he didn't start off in ministry. He started off as a professor. And he said that this idea of being in full-time ministry, 9 to 5, pastoring a church was never something he wanted to do. But he was a professor, and it started small, but it kept growing and growing until it became this unbearable burden of like, I know I'm not doing what God has called me to do. I know I'm supposed to be in full-time ministry.
Right.
And it got to the point where he said he had no option. It's like he had to, or else he was going to live under this weight of like, I'm living in disobedience kind of thing, you know? And I think that like, that's a good thing to wrestle with. It's like, if you can do something else, then do it. And that's great. But if you're doing that and you continually have this growing burden and passion to work in a church, to do this full time and to be in vocational ministry, then that's something that God will continue to grow and lead you into. So it's funny because a lot of times students will talk about like, oh, I don't know if I should because I'm gonna miss it, right? I gotta just do it. You know, it's like if Jonah found God's will as he was running away from God. How much more are we going to find God's will if we're trying to pursue Him and hear what His will is? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, God's not going to just leave you out there to dry.
Right.
Like, if it's a passion and you're pursuing and you're like, God, are you calling me to this or are you not? God will answer, you know? And that's very important. He will answer through a few specific avenues. One of those specifically is spiritual authority. So an idea is that I'm going to read it here just so I don't like butcher this. There's a couple of things that we can look at, and one of the things that is highly valuable in the processing of whether or not you're called to full-time ministry is the approval and kind of the sending out of your step into full-time ministry from the people that are over you and helping you and leading you into a deeper relationship with Christ. So your spiritual mentors, your spiritual authority,
Right.
whatever term you want to put there,
Right.
your pastors basically. Like you want those people, and your parents. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So for your process, talk about the idea and just like the combination of like your parents supporting you in this and me supporting you in it and Pastor Allen supporting you in it and giving you positions and like leadership opportunities here. Like what has that been like?
I mean, yeah, from my parents, they're like, they mess with it, you
Right.
know? You know?
Right.
I mean, it kind of, personally, it kind of feels like I'm piggybacking off of Josemar, but not really. You know, I am going to feel that, but I know I'm called to it, so it's not, I'm not piggybacking off of it. And I talked to my mom about it the other day. My mom and my siblings about it the other day. They were like, she was like, what do you want to do? You know, how are you going to do it? And then I told her, I want to go to Highlands College, or I want to pursue ministry, wherever it may be. And she was really supportive of that, and I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah.
And as of you guys, last week you guys have given me opportunities to grow and to actually do ministry, and it's so much different from like learning and then doing. Cause like
that's big.
Yeah, that's the difference between like knowledge and wisdom, right? Because knowledge is just knowing something, but wisdom is actually doing it. So it's really awesome how you guys have placed stuff inside of the church for me to like work in and do stuff in.
Yeah.
And yeah, just talking with you guys has really helped a lot. To my spiritual authorities, constantly encouraging me, giving me opportunities to grow, being a leader, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's good. And there's a verse that supports this. Acts 13, 2-3, it says, while they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. So after they fasted and prayed, they placed their hands on them and sent them off. It's a big deal. Like to be sent off is much better than to just leave. Like there's a lot that's lost in that process if you're leaving rather than being sent. So a lot of times pastors will raise up other pastors and send them off to go launch their own church.
Yeah.
That's great and it multiplies the kingdom, but it's bad when they just leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a practical example, but the same thing is true with anybody who is under spiritual authority, who just does their own thing and doesn't seek the blessing of God on it and the confirmation. Because honestly, it's not just spiritual, it's super practical.
Yeah.
Because if you came to me and said, hey bro, like, I'm thinking about full-time ministry, dude. I could have been like, nah, bro, that ain't for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could have been like, you're like really excited about it right now, but like, I don't think that's the right thing for you to do. Like, I could give my opinion.
Yeah.
And because I know and live in that, if really like, okay, I see that you're really excited and passionate, or I could look at the 2 years that you've invested into youth ministry. You've put your hands on things that I've seen God grow, and you've taken leadership opportunities, and those opportunities have produced a ton of fruit. I mean, even the small group you're leading right now, and the people that are coming into our church that never would have stepped foot into our church. Like God, more than just my opinion, I can confirm that God's hand is on you to do those things. And so that's not just me. Like that's just like my opinion is my opinion, but I'm trying to judge a tree by its fruit kind of thing, and trying to show you that like I agree. I think this is something that you're called to do. And the same thing with Pastor Allen and other pastors on staff to be behind you and supporting you. And so practically it helps confirm, and also practically when you get down there and things get tough, you can call me up and I'd be like, bro, like you're called to do this, man. Like, you know, encourage you and strengthen you, because if you go out and you're not sent out, then it's like you don't have that.
That's facts.
And you're just like, man, I hope I made the right decision.
Facts. Yeah.
Because I didn't come from a church like this. I came from like no church. Like we bounced around, never could really find anything. I found out about Highlands College. I figured I was called to full-time ministry, and so I went, and like, praise God, I was right. You know, it would have been rough if not. So it just helping with the discerning, am I called or am I just really excited about it? What's it look like?
Right.
And then the other thing is ministry results. So a good example is Acts 2:40 through 41.
Mm-hmm.
It says, with many other words, Peter warned them and he pleaded with them, save yourselves from this corrupt generation. Those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their numbers that day. That's one example of the crazy things that they saw God do through their ministry, right? So ministry, in the most basic sense, is, and this, I'm not saying this like biblically, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to say like my opinion, and as I think about it, when I think about ministry and when it comes to my daily job, the best thing that I can do is, number one, grow my relationship with Christ. Because especially for students right now, if you're wondering like, okay, how do I prepare myself for ministry one day, is to be with Jesus every day. Yeah. Invest into that, because the best, my mentor, the guy that married Michaela and I, he actually said, the best thing that you can ever bring to a team is not your talents, but it's your relationship with Jesus. He said, if you can bring who you are there and it overflows and the power of the Holy Spirit's moving through you and you're having that kind of experience, your effectiveness in ministry is going to be huge. Yeah. So to me, it starts with, ministry to me is investing into my relationship with Jesus, being with Jesus every day. Yeah. And then number two is just saying yes to Jesus, like saying yes to God. So it's like, if I go into a work week or something, and something like what happened tonight, which is we had an idea, but I feel like God was like, no, we need to talk about this tonight. Yeah. I want to do my best to say yes. Right. I want to say yes to being a great steward of all the admin work I have to do that I really hate, or all of the pastoral responsibilities that take a lot of time away from my family. Like, I want to say yes to those things in a way that God would be pleased with that, right? Right. So I think that just like as we're talking about the idea of ministry, and maybe you can speak to that, like what do you think right now is the biggest thing that like maybe you're worried about, or maybe it's like you have some kind of unspoken fear or misunderstanding or something you don't really know. Like, do you have anything that comes to mind when you think about that?
First thing that came to mind, am I doing it right? Because like a lot of times I have no idea what I'm doing. Not most of the all the time. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
That means you're probably doing it right.
Okay.
No, that's funny. Yeah, that's good. So just like in a sense of like what exactly do you mean? Like, am I doing what right?
Am I talking to people right? You know, am I connecting them to them right? Because like a lot of times I don't even know it. I'll come off as like aggressive. Because like I'll go talk to someone and then like I won't try to be weird because I don't like that. I'll just try to be like as cool and normal and calm as possible. But sometimes I do come off as a little like assertive and aggressive. Yeah. And sometimes I don't know whether they like mess with that or not.
Right.
You know,
no, I know what I'm saying. And I think that's something a lot of people probably feel that way, especially with different personalities. Like I'm an 8, quote unquote, on the Enneagram, you know, whatever. So like apparently 8s on the Enneagram are very like direct and they're very abrasive if they're not careful, and can kind of be seen as more of like a bulldozer and kind of run over people. And I kind of relate to that a little bit, but you know, not to a crazy unhealthy extent. Yeah. But something I've realized is that, and Craig Rochelle says it a lot. He's the pastor of America's like biggest church, and he's got a great leadership podcast, and it's awesome. And something he says all the time is that people would rather follow someone who's real than someone who's always right. And so in a lot of times we do want to be right in ministry. Yeah. And especially as a pastor, it takes a lot of humility to say like, man, I don't know what the Bible says about that, and I have no clue what you should do. But I'm going to go pray about it, and I think that we can find an answer together. Yeah. You know, so a lot of times, like for me, it doesn't really help the student or the parent for me to give them a biblical answer for something. Because what that does is, okay, I answered your problem, but I did nothing to teach you how to pursue the counselor, the Holy Spirit. Right. Like if I'm going to do anything, I want to point you to the one who does the ministry, which is God. Wow. So for me, I'm just going to say yes as much as I can. Yeah. But so as you step into ministry, really it's like, how many people are you pointing to Christ? If you're bringing people to you, well, that's all right. They might follow in your example, but whatever. But you're their pursuit, and that's not good. So it's like, I don't want people to always come to me for an answer. Right. Especially students if they have questions of like, especially in today's age, it's like our culture is like, hey, like what are your thoughts about homosexuality, and what are your thoughts about drugs and alcohol and like all this stuff,
Right.
and things that are just on a broad spectrum. All these different topics, good or bad, they're so commonly tossed around that we forget how to think through a biblical worldview. And so for me, I could just say like, oh, well, here's the answer.
Yeah.
Because like the Bible says it here. Or I could say, how about you go do a little bit of research, like go and like read the Bible and ask God what he thinks about that. Whatever you think your answer is, come back to me next week and we'll talk about it. So like I've said that to a lot of students because then it's like, okay, if I do actually want to know this answer and I'm not just asking just to be facetious and like cause an argument or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to go and let God speak to me, because really ministry, and man, I think this will help anybody. This will help you guys at home and you. It's like as you step into this season of ministry and you're pursuing full-time ministry, really what's great is when you can push people on the path of self-discovery. Because I can tell them all day long.
Right.
But at the end of the day, especially our generation, we're screaming, don't tell me, show me. I'm sick of people telling me.
Yeah.
I want to see it with my own eyes.
Right.
And what's even better than that, though, is when they discover it for themselves. Yeah. Whether that be through a conversation or they see it happen, they see me walk it out or something. Yeah. But really what that's going to do, how that's going to come about is in their personal prayer time with God. Yeah. So it's like when they're pursuing God with a question and they don't leave that moment until they receive an answer for that question through the Bible, biblically speaking. And then we can process that together. Instead of it going from, oh, I don't know this answer to, oh, this pastor told me the answer. Yeah. Now it can be, I didn't know this answer, but I believe that God spoke to me and said that this is what the answer is. Wow. That is, you're much more bought into that. Yeah, that's facts. You know what I mean? Like, than just like, oh yeah, some dude told me that, like, this is a good thing. You know, it's like, it's like God showed you in this moment and he spoke to you, God to you. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So, Big A's, yes sir. So if you got any questions in the chat, come in here. We're gonna end soon. We started a little bit late, so we're going a little bit late. Sorry about that. But we're just making it work. So what are your thoughts on, we talked a little bit before the stream started, about this idea of like, I want to pursue full-time ministry. And so 252 is a student internship that we have here at the church. Yeah. For high school students, it happens throughout the summer. It's 8 weeks, and it's like all day, every day. But it's like the most fun thing in the whole world. Oh, yeah. It's the most fun. So like we tell students, it's so funny because we don't really like blast it out on social media and stuff. We just handpick students and we tell students and say you can apply for this. At the first one, we did handpick students. But now it's an application process and we do interviews and stuff. And it's so funny because we tell students like, yeah, you're going to give up your whole summer. Like, basically. I mean, that sounds kind of bad, but like you're going to give up 8 weeks of maybe 3 months that you have in the summer to come spend with me and 40 other students at the church. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Right. But what we also tell them is, if you do this, it will be the most fun summer of your entire life. Oh, yeah. Like, if you give me your life for 8 weeks and I can invest in you and encourage you and strengthen you, I'll give you the best summer you've ever had. Right. And it's the best summer for me. Oh, yeah. Like, the past 2 summers have been wild. Oh, yeah, me too, like, me too. It's fun. So they go into history books for sure. So middle school also now happens for... 252 now also happens for middle school. Yeah. And that is just starting this semester. So we have a few students going through it, about 13. And then we'll open it up in the fall, potentially, for more applicants and stuff like that, depending on, how we tweak it and all that stuff. But that's really like the next step for a lot of people. Right, yeah. Is that if you feel like you're called into full-time ministry and you want to know how to do that now, that is your first step. Like, well, obviously your first step is what we just said, invest into your relationship with Jesus. Yeah. Because that's what's going to be the make it or break it for you in long-term ministry, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. So in that long run, what's going to sustain you? It's not the stage opportunities like Caesar had a few weeks ago. It's your relationship with Christ. Right. And so 252 is your second biggest next step, right? So that's the biggest thing that you can do aside from just investing in your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And so for you now, you're a product of God investing into you and really like we gave you the opportunities, but we only gave you the opportunities because we saw God's hand on your life. And it's our responsibility as pastors to equip the saints for ministry, right? To not just to do all the ministry, but to equip people to do it.
Right.
So for you, you're a product of God working through the local church to raise you up, to send you out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
As you come to this last year of 252, your senior year, you're heading out next year. When you step into Highlands College in this next season, we talked a little bit before off stream about this idea that your 20s are for training. And there's this pressure for a lot of people to think, and we'll end with this unless anybody's got any questions. But a lot of people think, I can't commit to full-time ministry unless I know exactly what it looks like. And that's like one of the biggest pitfalls.
Yeah.
Because I'm a next gen pastor right now, but I'm not going to stay in next gen ministry for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I might, but potentially, probably not.
Yeah.
I might go pastor a church one day. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not called to know that right now. So for you, how do you work through that tension and that temptation to push off full-time ministry and in an attempt to wait for God to show you exactly what it's going to look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, first thing that comes up to mind that the Holy Spirit gave me was the verse Luke 2:52, which is what 252 is based off of, and it reads like Jesus grew. Now this verse is the only verse we get that shows us Jesus' life from age 12 to 30, and the verse reads or something like this. It's like Jesus grew in stature and wisdom and in favor with God and in favor with man, from age 12 to 30. So that right there tells us that what do we need to do from age 12 to 30? It's not know what college we need to go or what college you need to go to.
This is so good.
Or how much money you need to make or the amount of fame you get or amount of girls you get or amount of guys you get. It tells us to grow. So from age 12 to age 30, what did Jesus do? He grew. And what did he grow in? He grew in stature, wisdom, favor with man, and favor with God. And if you get those 4 things down in your life right now from age 12 to 30, there it is. Yeah.
Game over. That's it. That's the end of the show. If you can do those things, man, that's great, dude.
Yeah.
Because that brings it full circle. That's why we do 252.
Right.
Is to help people do what Jesus did and grow in wisdom and stature, favor with God, favor with man.
Yeah.
Everything we do in 252 is created and backed by those 4 things. So our workouts, our prayer time in the morning, our chapels, our classes, our office hours, the family days that we have every Thursday.
Yeah.
All those things are created and backed by those 4 pillars.
Yeah.
And man, so I think that's just great. If anybody is interested in that or has questions about what that might look like, feel free to message us, or you can text. You can actually text definition to 97,000. I'm about to put it in here right now because I will forget. I'm going to put it in the chat. Definition to 97,000. You can text that. And there's a few options. There's an option on getting connected. You can respond in there. You can ask questions. You can also email me at pjones@definition.church. pjones@definition.church. So you can email me, and I'd love to have a conversation about it. I'm having conversations all the time about people who are wanting to pursue full-time ministry, or maybe they're thinking about it because y'all are high school. This is the time where God starts showing you. I mean, David at this age was spoken, hey, you're going to be the king. And there's a difference between the calling and the commissioning. So Joseph, when he was young and with his brothers still, he received this calling, and God showed him a glimpse of what your future will look like.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people right now, a lot of students who have a glimpse right now of what their future will look like. And there's this in-between from the calling to the commissioning that is often very difficult. And if you can have a community like 252 to help you in that in-between, oh my goodness, the commissioning will be so much more impactful. Gosh almighty.
Right.
So anyway, that's great. So we're overtime. Thank you for being back, bro.
Got
Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me back.
We'll have you back probably 1,000 more times. But man, we're so excited just to go on this journey with you guys. And if you have any questions, let us know. Let Caesar know. If you want to talk to a student about what's it like to go through it right now.
And let me drop my number real quick. 336-392-4210.
There you go.
336-392-4210. Yes, I am single, by the way, for those wondering.
My gosh. You had to drop that. So anyway, we'd love to talk with you. Caesar would love to talk with you.
Yeah.
And we're just here for you guys, to help you along the journey. So thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for being involved tonight. I know we had a little bit of technical issues in the beginning and we went a little bit over. But hey, it was a good conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So anything else to say before we hop off, Caesar?
Luke 2:52. Go check it out. Luke 2:52. All of you guys watching right now need to check out that verse. Even if you already know what it is, just check it out.
That's good. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining.
All right, bye guys.